Squee, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah, Squee.
Very nice. Squee, welcome aboard. What do you have to say?
Um, well, I'm very pro-choice.
Okay,
Um, and I'm pro-choice all 9 months. So,
sure. Why?
I do not think anyone's, um, nobody's right to life supersedes anyone else's bodily autonomy, um,
Thanks.
for pretty much anything.
What do you mean by bodily autonomy? Do you mean the ability to govern yourself?
Um, no, I more mean like if you get into a car crash, you put somebody into like let's say you injure somebody, you would never have to give up yourself until that person is made whole, even though you put them in a state of dependence. Um, it's like in a car
Sorry,
crash.
you jumped right into an example, and that's fine if you don't have a definition or a finite way to
Oh,
explain this to me. I'm just looking, what do you mean by bodily autonomy? If I had never heard the phrase before, how do I understand that?
like somebody has the right to govern what happens to their own body.
So you believe that right is absolute?
No, of course not. There are
Oh, okay.
rights and
So
laws
you made
that
the
you have to
statement
come
that
to.
somebody's right to bodily autonomy is never triumphed by somebody else's right to life.
Yes, yes,
So to me,
right to
that means
life.
that the right to bodily autonomy must then be absolute. But then you say no. So how is
Or
it not?
the right to life. Like you do
The
not have
right
to
to
give
life.
yourself for somebody else's right to life.
So you don't have to.
Like
You don't
we
have
are
to.
not
When you
on a
say give
list.
yourself, you mean like give resources to invest in. You don't have to do that when it
Yeah,
comes to other people.
yeah, like within your own body, your resources, your organs, your blood, your
And exactly why?
anything within.
Why are you not expected to do that? Let's just talk specifically now. Why are you not expected to do that for the child?
Okay, for the child,
Yeah,
because it's a separate life and you should never have to give your reason, like nobody else's right to life will should supersede your bodily autonomy, your decisions.
sure. I get that you think you shouldn't have to. I'm just asking for some more substance here. Why shouldn't you have to? Because to me, it's so evident that, or at least intuitive, that you should be giving yourself to your children. And you're coming at me and saying, well, no, James, actually, there are cases where you're not actually obligated to give yourself to your children. That would be in the womb because it relies on the womb. Okay. Can you just
Yeah,
tell me why? Because it's still not intuitive to me.
I guess whatever reason a mother may have. um I mean, you're saying like
So
why does their a mother's bodily autonomy supersede their right to life?
yeah, because you just say, yeah, just abstractly, she can't be required to do anything biological for the child, right? There can't be any
Right, right,
sort
right.
of dependency of the child that she has to allow happen. And
Yeah,
I don't get why we are making that abstraction because it's inherently good for the child to allow the child to develop and to eventually get to their future. That's in the best interest of the child. So, I mean, I'm just looking for what's good about this abstraction that you've come up with.
personally, because the woman's life, I would value it at higher than the right to life. The woman's bodily autonomy, I would hold at a higher value than the right to
Okay,
life
but
of the
but
fetus.
why? Why is that so important to do? What is the result of doing such a thing? To say that she has this not absolute, you're not using that language, but to say she has
No, it's
almost
not.
an absolute ability to govern herself to the ability that she's not obligated to care for her child in the womb. Why are we doing that? What is to be gained from doing that?
For the woman, I mean, there's numerous things to be gained for the woman. Of course,
Which
she no
is
longer has to go through. I mean, childbirth is something. Childbirth is very, very hard. On, I mean, you could have a couple people who say childbirth is really easy, but I've never personally met somebody who has said childbirth was just a breeze. Many of my friends hemorrhaged.
okay, so
Um,
one of the
so
reasons is that
it's hard.
childbirth is hard.
Childbirth
She's
is
going to
very,
suffer to some extent.
very
Are there any
hard.
other
Somebody's
reasons?
going to be suffering. The, I mean, it's it's been proven to take so many years off your life, like having a kid. Those people live shorter.
Okay,
They
so
have more health
so you're going to
complications.
suffer. Hold on, let me write this down. You're going to
Yeah.
suffer from childbirth. Okay.
Yeah, it can be for some people. I'm not saying everybody.
There are studies out there you're
There's
saying that
probably
say that lives or years off of your life are going to be taken, correct?
yeah.
So
I think
years
it's
of
about
life.
3 per child.
Okay. I don't know if I totally
Right?
believe that,
Right? Like it's
but
hard
okay.
to
What else is
suffer.
there?
Let's see. There was so many complications during pregnancy. That
Let's
could
just
be
deal with the
avoided
healthy
if you don't.
pregnancies, right? Where the baby's going to be okay and the mother's going to be okay. Maybe there's, a few
Well, I
hiccups
mean,
here and there, but
healthy pregnancies can have like gestational diabetes, right? Are you determining that to be like a healthy?
okay, so let me just so we can
Okay,
kind of
no,
get through
no
this a little
health
quicker.
problems or
So you've given me 3 reasons, right? You give me
yeah,
suffering, years of life potentially being taken off of your own life,
yeah.
and gestational diabetes, among other things that you're ready to name. How do all of those reasons add up to justify depriving that child of their life?
Because the woman's now bodily autonomy or the woman's health and safety and whatnot. She's looking at this as, hey, this is, I mean, potentially it's 70,000 women die each year globally from childbirth, and 1,200 alone in like the USA, and that's a huge number. Like, and
Okay, I'm not advocating for forcing anybody to sustain a pregnancy that will end their life. I give the medical exception. I'm asking you, let's take all the things. So you have let me just lay this out for you as to why I'm doing it this way. You have given an abstraction. I'm going to call it a model for how you view the world. In your model, you care so deeply about the bodily autonomy of a woman. You care to the extent that you will justify offing a kid. So I'm trying to understand, what exactly do you care about? So we got some reasons here: suffering, years of life. We already went through that.
Yep.
Now I'm going under the abstraction. I'm going to ignore it for a moment. I'm going to ask you just to consider justice, because I think we both would agree in our society we want to uphold something like justice. I'm asking you now, how is it just to deprive the child in the womb of their future life because of the reasons you gave me? How exactly does that work? Because I view the deprivation of the future of life to be a great harm to that child. They're losing everything. But you've given me all these reasons that really just amount to discomfort and life being hard. And at the end of the day, that's everyone's life. You're going to suffer. Life is going to be hard. Just explain it to me. How does it work out? How does it become just?
Because nobody has the right to put anybody in that detrimental of or that place. In like, nobody.
I'm not arguing that people should be put in that place. I'm trying to protect the
Okay, but
child
you're
once they're already
saying
created.
the child should have some just saying, hey, the mother should be able to handle this discomfort because the child's right to life like supersedes this
I haven't mentioned, so interesting enough, I haven't mentioned the right to life yet. I haven't.
Okay.
I just think that the child is worth protecting because they have a life. But
okay, so you want to protect them and their
yes,
future.
I think that it is. Yes, go on, please. Sorry.
And I'm saying the woman's discomfort does matter, and she has a right to protect herself, saying, I do not want to go through with this. I do not want to continue this. This is
what is more important to you? Is it more important that we do what's just in the situation, or is it more important that we minimize only one party's suffering? Because that's what you're proposing. You're saying, James, I'm not even going to engage with the justice talk with you. What I'm worried about is how much the woman's going to suffer. Where I say, no, let's consider both parties. Let's consider the child. Let's consider the mom. And let's think about this and use our reason to come to a solution that's most just. It's not to say that I don't care about the mom. It's not to say I don't care about her suffering. I do. I deeply care. I want what's best for her too. But I'm not sold that it's, first of all, just to off the kid. And I would also venture to say I'm not sold that abortion is a solution to any of her problems.
Okay. Well, the abortion would end the pregnancy and the complications that come with pregnancy.
Sure, but again, you're not considering the other party involved, which is the life, the human life.
Okay, and
You're just
that's
ignoring it.
probably because I believe at birth is when the baby is born into the social contract.
Oh,
So
oh, a social
I think
contract. So that social contract
yes,
only kicks in when you're born.
yeah,
Why?
it does.
And what kind of social
They,
contract are you speaking of?
the social contract of the mother. I guess it would be the mother, wherever the mother's from, her laws, ethics, morals of the mother.
So the social contract, that's interesting language you're using in the political philosophy sphere. So that exists above the human law, you would say, right? It's something that we're binded to, we're obligated to partake in, you would say.
Yes, yes, because it's. I mean,
Why
it's
am I?
more than the law.
Can you substantiate that? Why am I obligated to enlist into your social contract?
Um, I mean, you aren't obligated to. I think you're more obligated to the law, and then your
Oh,
mother or father would teach you like the ethics and the morals
wait. So
surrounding them.
I'm not obligated to bend my knee to the social contract that you're talking about, but in this situation, why do I care about it then? If it doesn't if it
Well,
doesn't maintain relevance to me, who doesn't accept it at face value, then why do I care about it at all?
well, you're the social contract itself, because the social contract is from whatever country that you. I guess
Oh, so
so.
you're not really talking about a social contract that is ideal. You're talking about a social contract that exists in the human law in some way. Okay, fine. So now you're using the is ought
Kind of,
fallacy,
but not
right?
not
Just
necessarily.
because something is doesn't mean it ought to be,
I'm
right?
sorry.
We're talking about what ought to be. We're talking about what is true about the situation. I would hope.
What's it? It's okay, Sally. Oh no. Oh no. Sorry, my baby's crying.
It's okay. Babies are wonderful. You know, I've got a lot of people in the guest box too, so you can drop down and we can talk to somebody else as well. If you
Okay,
your
yeah,
kid.
I'll let you go. She's crying. All right, bye.
Okay. Thank you so much, Squee. Appreciate it. All right, we will move on to the next person, guys. If you could, please keep liking the live. I do greatly appreciate it. Join the Discord server. You might just catch a presentation by K, a.k.a. Aristotle Jr. Still giving him respect while also respecting one of the greatest philosophers of all time, as well as Honey, who edits my videos. Her TikTok is in my link tree. Appreciate everybody being here. Do you have kids? I do not have kids. I would love kids, though, one day. Once I find that lucky woman. Am I right? All right, so we will move on to Micah.
Hello.
Micah, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. What do you have to say? You're muted. You're muted. Micah! You're muted, Micah. Come on. You're muted. Ah. Micah,
Really?
what is going on,
Hey,
man?
hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I
Hey,
can.
my
What do you have to
boyfriend
say?
called.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Those men, right? Always
So
messing
basically,
things up.
right? I was like, out of all times you gonna call me, you gonna call me right now?
For real, for real. All right, Michael, what do you have to say?
So honestly, I believe that abortion should be legal all 9 months. Now, before you judge me, let me explain. So
Please,
after
please.
they're viable, I take the extraction standpoint. So whether that's C-section or induced labor, because at the end of the day, abortion is just termination of pregnancy. So once you do that C-section, once you induce that labor, the pregnancy will still be finished, right? You're not pregnant anymore. So once it's viable, it can then be extracted. Now, before that point, I do say that they should have be able to get a lethal abortion. And the reason I say this is because, if somebody breaks into your house, you have the right to use lethal force because they are intruding on what is yours. They're intruding on your property. So my body is mine. If someone is inside my body that I don't want, even, and I hate to compare it to this, but like even in instances of rape, they're inside your body. So during that time, you can unalive them to get them out.
Can I ask you a question? When you said my body is mine, who are you referring to? Who is my?
Me,
Who is me?
Micah,
Micah is who?
the person who's talking to you.
Okay, so I can't see your body right now, but I'm assuming you're a human body and there's something animating the body. I would call that the soul. Maybe, the philosophers might have a different explanation. But That to me is Micah. When you say Micah owns my body, what exactly does that mean so that I can understand your viewpoint?
Just, a nod to the my body, my choice argument. My body is mine and nobody has a right to my body.
Right. I get that you believe that it's your body. I'm just asking, can you kind of substantiate what exactly that means? Who is my? Are you speaking like Micah, like the thing that animates my body, Micah the mind? Like what are you saying?
My physical body is my body. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, if it's my body, it belongs to me. Right?
Okay, so your body belongs to you. Is it true that in any political issue, you are always able to govern yourself absolutely?
I'm sorry. Can we run that back? You said what?
Yeah, so do you believe you have an absolute right to your own body?
Absolutely.
So you can do whatever you want with your body. Is there any stipulations there, or you truly believe in that absolute right?
So, okay, so let me put it like this. You could do what you want to your body.
Okay.
However,
You can do what you want to your body, okay?
yes. However, I'm not saying that what you do won't have a consequence, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. So you can do whatever you want to your body, but you may do something that has a consequence. Meaning you could do
Like,
something
you can
that's
do whatever you
wrong
want
and
to
something you
your
ought
own-
not to
okay.
do, and we punish you for it?
No, so you can do whatever you want to do to your own body, but you are asking me,
Your own
do I
body.
believe that somebody should be able to do whatever they want with their body? As in, like, let's say she wants to, like, let's say I decided I want to go up and punch somebody.
Sure.
Right. I'm using my body to punch somebody, but now I've harmed somebody in that process. So if they punch me back, I can't be like, oh, why would you do that? Because I just punched somebody. So of course,
What if, let me ask you this question. What if you were living a really nice life, whatever that means to you, and for a month you kind of go into this depression and you decide that you actually just don't want to live anymore? So should we allow you, since you have the right to do whatever you want with your own body, should we allow you the ability to off yourself?
So in those instances, I would say that we should try to help them. Because at the end of the day, trying to unalive yourself is a sad. I would want you to get help. However, I'm not going to throw you in prison because you tried to unalive yourself.
So, to what extent would you stop them from offing themselves? And how about, let's make it more interesting. This is a person that lives a perfectly normal life, right? They have a beautiful wife, beautiful children, right? And they're living their life, but they've been known to every couple years go into an episode, right? And they go into it for about a month, and they get depressed and they want to off themselves. Do you think as a society, as a people, we should give people like that the ability to go to a hospital and be euthanized to off themselves? Or should we restrict what they can do with their own body and say, no, you're being a little crazy, you're a little bit mentally ill, we love you, we care for you, we're not going to give you the ability to end your own life?
Yeah, I know you're going to think I'm a monster for this, but granted, I would not want them to do that. However, the other options are painful, and more pain. So I wouldn't want them to put themselves through more pain if they're going to do it and I can't
Even if they've been in these episodes before and they go on for years and they love their children and they take them to soccer practice and they love their wife, even if this happens every few years and all you gotta do is just kind of care for them and love them and just, don't let them go to a hospital and be euthanized, you would still say, you know what? You're feeling like that, man. That's really how you feel. Yeah, go ahead and euthanize yourself. You would allow that to happen? Really?
I'm not quite sure how this is comparable to abortion, but
I'm just asking on principles here because you care deeply about your rights to yourself, and I just want to know how far you'd go to that.
Okay, so of course.
So you would. Okay. So I think I'm just gonna say it now. I think that's absurd. I think that if somebody is mentally ill, somebody who clearly needs help, I think that it's our obligation as a people to help them and not just give them the ability to euthanize themselves.
I said I would try to help them, but however.
But you would give them the ability to euthanize themselves.
Okay, let's talk about it. So, one,
Sure.
I have been in those type of states, and not only have I been in those type of states, I've had friends who have been in those type of states. I've had friends
What type of states?
I'm trying not to get your live ban, but the unaliving themselves states. I've had them call me during this while they were about to do it. And of course, I try my best to talk them out of that. But what you don't understand is during that time when they're in that point of their mind, if they snap and they do it, it's going to be nothing you can do to stop them. All you can do is try and talk them down. And that's all I could do.
Right. And you would make it in your worldview, the way you have set up your principles, the way you see the world. That's what I'm talking about here. Okay. you would make it easier for them to do that. Whereas I would make it harder for them to do that because I don't think it's good for them to off themselves. So we see the world fundamentally different already.
Okay, so either way, it's not going to be easy. Unaliving yourself isn't easy.
Sure.
However, the options are, overdosing on pills, which can still fail, traumatize them even further, and might push them even further into a depression, especially if they have to pump their stomach, and that's going to cause them more pain when they
Sure,
already are.
I want to help them. I want to help them. I
Yeah,
want them
and
to
I
get
do
well.
too. And I do
And
too.
you would make it easier for them to be offed. You would make it
I
easier.
want
I would
them-
make it harder. I would make it incredibly hard for them to off themselves. And I would also, I think we could agree at least on this part, I would make it easier for them to get help.
I'm going to try and help them the best I can. When that happened with my friend, I actually did call their parents so that they could get mental help. They were checked into a mental hospital. However, if somebody in your situation that you're talking about is like, I'm about to do it, like there's nothing you can do to stop
Right,
me.
I get it. That's not the hypothetical I laid out. I'm just talking about in principle, what would we do
That's
when
what
we set up our
you're saying.
societies?
Yeah, and
And
I said I
you
would-
would set up a society that would make it easier to be euthanized. I disagree.
I literally said I would try and talk them out of it. However, if they're like,
I understand. I don't doubt that.
I would prefer to do.
Micah, I don't doubt
euthanasia.
that. I'm not trying to make you seem like a terrible person, although I think some of your views are flawed. I believe that you would care about them. I believe that you would try to help them. I believe you helped your friend. I believe all of this. But at the end of the day, your principles lead to a situation where you would make it easier for someone to off themselves, even though there's no plausible reason for them to do so. And I fundamentally disagree with that. But let's go back to the abortion topic. So you care deeply about viability. Can you explain to me why?
So at the moment it's viable. That means that they can now survive, or at least they have a good chance of survival of their own. So now there's an alternative option to getting this fetus out of that woman's body without having to do it the lethal way. So my whole thing is, if there's a best option, I want us to do the best option. So in that type of scenario, they would not only be able to stop being pregnant, but because that fetus can survive on their own, they will be able to do that as well. It's a win-win situation all around. However, before they are viable, there is no other option. It's either lethal abortion or lethal abortion.
So you're purely thinking about, how can I get this freaking child out of my life?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's kind of how it sounds to me. You're like, man, we can't really do it until viability, but once we have the option to do it, we got to do it. Let me ask you kind of a question about that. Why? Why is it so important that we get the child out of the womb as quickly as possible?
The woman doesn't want it in her womb.
Why does that matter?
Their fetus is intruding on that woman's body.
How is it intruding? It's in a place that was designed for it.
So when we're talking about an intrusion, it means that somebody is somewhere where that other person does not want them to be. Like, let's say you're like your sibling, right? Your sibling comes into your room. They're intruding into your space. That is your space.
Someone is somewhere.
This is my body.
Okay.
So therefore, my body is mine. If they're
and you can take actions. Let me just make sure I understand the principle. If somebody intrudes into a space that you don't want them to be in, an action you can take is to actually do something that would cause them to die.
Okay, so again, that's why I used the example of your bedroom. So it's a place that you do not want them that is yours. So your house, your room, and in this scenario, your body. It's literally, and I don't know if you know about stand your ground laws, but literally even in the legal prospect, we understand that if somebody's intruding on your property, if somebody's trespassing onto you, whether that is your body, because again, you can also unalive somebody for raping you if they are, inside of you. You can, assaulting you. You can, it's called self-defense, stand your ground. There's a lot of reasons for it. However, all of these boils down to the fact that an intrusion was done, whether that was on your property.
So the child is intruding on you because you don't want the child to be there. It all comes from what you want and what you don't want. That's how the world works. Okay, so outside of the womb, let's say that you were out in the wilderness and you were just with your child and your child's in your house, right? And it's negative 30 degrees. A snowstorm has just come, right?
God.
Let's say you're in Alaska and it's the winter and you suddenly something just happens in your mind and you say, man, I just don't want that child to hear anymore. I now claim intrusion. Because intrusion doesn't come from how the world's ordered. Intrusion doesn't come from some sort of design or where things ought to be. Intrusion comes from my mind. Intrusion comes from me. Okay. So now the child is intruding in this hypothetical in your cabin in in Alaska, right? And it's negative 20 degrees outside. Do you have the right to carefully set that child outside in the freezing cold in the middle of the blizzard?
Okay. So remember, my whole stance is
Someone said yes. Sorry, go ahead.
So remember, my whole stance is once it is viable, you can't just use lethal because there is another option.
Whoa! You didn't even engage the hypothetical. You gave me principles. You guys,
So
the pro-choicers / leftists or whatever you guys are.
I'm sorry.
You guys work on principles, and so I'm just testing your principles. Okay. So in this principle, what can you do with the child? Do you have the right, or can you put that child outside in the freezing cold because they're now intruding in your house?
Okay. So let's talk about it, shall we? Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it, Micah. That's what I want to do.
I do believe that you can assume duty. So once you have that child, because this is legal, we're talking legal matters. So once you assume the responsibility of that child by, giving birth, signing that birth certificate, saying, I now say that I do have responsibility over this child. I claim this child is mine and I will be taking care of it. You have now given yourself a duty to intervene. So what that means is if you do something like, just throwing that child out,
Sure.
you have now violated your duty to intervene.
Sure. I love what you just did there. You inserted something into the human law to make my hypothetical more complicated. I love that.
No,
but here I will challenge you with this though.
Look it up?
No, Michael, hold on. I will make it even more complicated. This person has not assumed duty. This person has not assumed duty. Whatever thing you have to do to assume duty, she hasn't done it. Can she do it? Can she put the child out in the freezing cold?
Now I'm talking about this is actual criminal justice law. If you sign that birth certificate,
I get it. I get what you're saying. I'm saying in my hypothetical, the person has not assumed duty. I'll add that for you so that it's better. So you understand it a little better because it's more in your world, right? Should that person put their child, or let's say it's just a child now. I'll even just allow it to just be a child. Should they put that child out in the cold?
Okay. So, in this case that you're saying, one, you can literally leave your child at a fire station. Again, there's still options. She could walk to a fire station.
If you put your child at a fire station, what's the expectation there?
The fire station would take it and it would go into the adoption system.
Which is not the expectation if you put your little baby outside in the freezing cold during a blizzard with nobody around, is it?
That's why I said take them to the fire station. I would say you can.
That's not the question, though. I'm asking you if I was using your principles of intrusion. I'm trying to see what you would do using your worldview.
I said that she can still abandon that child at a fire station.
That's not an option. That is not an option.
Definitely an option. You can abandon your child at a
You're
fire
in a
station.
blizzard. There's 10 feet of snow. You can't go anywhere. Just because you feel like you're being intruded on, can you put that child outside of your house?
So why is it?
Why can't you just say yes or no? I don't understand.
Because that's not even.
If it's so implausible to just let a child be outside and die because you've now taken it from its natural environment. In this case, it would be the warm house inside, away from the blizzard. Then why can't you just say no? No, you can't do that.
If you're stuck in a blizzard, how did they even open the door?
I mean, let's just say you have a little, covering. I don't know. We can make this hypothetical work for you. All you do is answer it. And all you have to do is say no. You can't do that. If that's a reasonable thing to say. This isn't supposed to be complicated.
There's a lot of issues with this statement because you're saying something that would literally never happen.
Oh, it doesn't happen? There's not snowstorms in Alaska and there aren't people alone with children inside homes? That doesn't happen? I don't know. That seems like that's pretty plausible. What's so unreasonable about that hypothetical?
You're saying you're stuck in the middle of nowhere. A snowstorm happens in a cabin. You're trapped in the cabin. You can't get out. You have no phone to call social services, I guess. Apparently, the phone just went out the window. You're phoneless in
Sure. Yeah.
2024.
Phone connections go down. Phone connections go down in New York. I mean, it happened. Sure.
Okay.
You still
So,
don't want to answer the hypothetical. I think I have a reason as to why
are
you don't
you
want to do it
aware
because you
that
know that that's wrong. Intuitively, it's wrong, but you just won't say it's wrong for a reason. And I think that
the,
might be
the
because it's so
problem
similar to
is,
pregnancy because you literally take the child
wait,
outside of
that,
its natural
no,
habitat and you let it die.
that has nothing to do with pregnancy, actually. That's completely different.
Okay, so is it then wrong then to put the child outside in the cold? Are you going to acknowledge that or are you going to just not answer that question?
I'm honestly just not really a fan of fallacies when it comes to debates. So like, for
I promise
example,
you this will be a video and it will not be a fallacy. Nobody's going to think it's a fallacy. That's at least reasonable. Well, let's change the conversation. I'll ask you one more question.
okay.
Why is it okay or why is it not okay rather to off a 1-year-old?
So that 1-year-old is now, you know, its own person. It has its own bodily autonomy. It can now survive on its own. So now you're intruding on the 1-year-old.
Okay. And so what's so bad? What's so bad about intruding on the 1-year-old?
The fact that, stop, Damo. So the fact that it has personhood. So you should not be, again, same with the woman, intruding on somebody else's body.
The fact that it has personhood. So simply the fact that we legally protect it is the reason it would be bad to off a child. That's what you believe.
So again, Dama. So again, when we're in reference to personhood, that is the quality or condition of being.
I honestly I don't care a whole ton about personhood because we used to have laws that said that slaves in the United States of America were actually not full people. So we start to appeal to this idea of personhood. I don't know, that gets complicated to me. I'd rather just talk about like things like, okay, what should we do? What shouldn't we do? Why do we value this being? Why don't we value this being? I'm just asking you simply, why is it wrong to off a 1-year-old? What's so bad about that?
My answer is that they have personhood. They are now an individual person. Like,
okay, let's say in a situation that has existed, that they weren't a full person. They weren't considered under the human law a full person.
how?
Why would it be wrong to off that 1-year-old?
How are they not a full person?
Let's say they're a slave. Slavery still exists in this country, or not this country, in this world. And slavery has existed in the United States of America. Let's say that they were a slave. Why would it be wrong to off them? I assume you would still say it'd be wrong to off them.
Just because you don't consider someone a full person, that does not change the biological fact that they would still be a human. Like,
okay, I agree. I agree. So why is it wrong to off this non-full person? Why is that wrong?
Because they are a full person. You said they were a slave.
Okay, so we're acknowledging that something exists higher than the human law. That is what is objectively true. Okay, fine.
About human law.
Sure, but we're no longer going to be appealing to the human law, right? Because we can say that, okay, sometimes we get things wrong. Sometimes we say people aren't full people, and, well, that's silly because every person has human dignity. So, sure, I agree. I agree with that premise, okay? So why is it wrong to off a 1-year-old?
I just said you do understand personhood isn't legal, right? Personhood is an actual, like, you being an individual as a person. Like, that's a state of being.
Okay, we're just going around in circles. I don't think you really get the premise, but I do appreciate you coming on, Micah.
I don't think you understand my answer, but.
Okay. Well, I don't think that you understand some basic terminology here. And I think that, the two absurd things that we've got there really showed themselves. The cabin in the woods, classic kind of obligation question, and also the euthanasia response. I thought that was pretty dark. Somebody's living a happy life, and every 2 years they go into a little episode where they're depressed. We don't make it easier for them to off themselves. That's crazy. That's crazy. Why? You look at them and you say, man, it's okay. You're loved, and we love you, and God loves you, and we're going to take care of you. We're not going to make it easier for you to off yourself. Bizarre. We will move on to the next individual and hear what they have to say. Let's talk to Lucy. Also, guys, if you're not in the Discord server, please join. The link is in my bio. All you have to do is hit the top left, go to my TikTok page, hit the link tree. It's one of the first links that comes up. It's a great way to support me, but also to partake in our great community we have over there. We got different events and lots of different content creators, and just go check it out, man. Even if you think you might leave, I think you might enjoy it. Anyway, Lucy, welcome aboard. Good to have you. Hello? Hello? Lucy? Lucy? Okay, Lucy has left the building, everybody. Maybe it's because I grabbed my rosary. Shout out Rosary. Maybe she got scared. I don't know. No. Might have just been a disconnect. We will move on to the next individual. That's going to be Annie. She's the first one on the list. I'm kind of just jumping around to random people. I know it doesn't put it in order, so. Annie.
Amy.
Oh my god, dude, I'm such a goofball, aren't I? Amy. I'm so sorry. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I've never done this
good.
before, just to let you know.
That's okay. What do you have to say, Amy?
So I had a few points. I have 2 looks on it.
Okay.
I don't believe that it should be completely banned, but I believe that there should be limits.
Okay, that's good. I mean, that's better than thinking people can off their kids at all times. Okay. So what are your limits?
I believe there should be a certain amount of abortions allowed. And then after that certain amount, they shouldn't be allowed because you're just being neglectful of your choices that you could use to not have them.
So at the individual level, or is this like some grand quota across the whole country?
Across the whole country.
Okay, so what would that quota be? How many kids can we off?
2 or 3.
2 or 3 kids. Oh, so you mean individual. You don't mean across the whole country. So you have a personal quota. You can off 2 or 3 of your kids.
I guess I probably misunderstood what you were trying to say when you asked that question the first time.
By quota, I mean, is there a threshold or an amount to the amount you can do it? So if you tell me 2 to 3 kids, that means that once you hit 2 to 3 kids of abortions, right, you off those kids in the womb, you can no longer do it. Is that what you're talking about in your quota system?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Why do we allow people to do that?
Because of certain circumstances. I'd say if you were being raped and you don't want to keep it.
You have to say SA on TikTok.
Oh, I'm sorry. SA.
Okay. Yeah. So if you were SA'd, okay. What else?
Financially, if you weren't financially stable and you know that you physically dire need could not take care of it in that moment.
Okay.
And the last one would be you're a dumb kid.
If you're a dumb kid.
Or not dumb.
Okay.
Kid, you're.
That's gonna be hard to measure, but I feel like most of us are dumb kids until we get to a certain age. But sure.
You're
okay.
a kid and it just happens.
Okay.
I personally would never get one myself.
Why would you personally not get one, Annie?
I don't know. It's just something that I never wanted for myself.
Why don't you want that? Annie? Why don't you want that?
I honestly don't really have an answer for it. It's just something that...
It's just intuitive to you? Maybe it's a basic prejudice?
Maybe.
Okay.
I just knew that from a kid that I never wanted one, but I would only ever get one if I really couldn't take care of it, or if it was something major.
Okay. So why does the protection of the child fully depend on whether or not the mother wants the child? Why are we basing our stance on protecting the child's life, which I think is pretty fundamental in this conversation, whether or not we protect the innocent life in the womb? Why is that based off of what the mother wants and the mother situation?
I don't believe it is, because there's also situations where say the guy doesn't want it. I have an example.
Oh, so you would allow a man to give the command to abort the child that's in the woman?
No.
So what exactly are you saying?
like there are situations where I'm just gonna put an example out there. When my mom was pregnant with me, my biological father did not want me. He wanted her to get an abortion, and she did not want one.
Okay.
So to try and force her to do it, he threw her down the stairs to hope that she'd miscarry.
That's such a terrible thing to hear. I'm so sorry that happened to her.
I am too. I don't believe that it's solely on the mother. I think it should be a joint decision.
Okay, let me rephrase the question. Why does the protection of the child in the womb rely solely on the parents?
Could you explain further?
So the child in the womb is a human being. And I think it's fundamental here to decide whether or not we protect that human being. The precedent is in the world is that we protect human beings.
Mm-hmm.
But the pro-choicer says, well, no, we don't really need to protect this human being, right? We don't really care to protect their right to exist. Why exactly is that? To me, it sounds like you're saying that your protection is fully dependent on how your mother and father see the situation. Can you just give me some substance there as to how that should make sense, or how should make sense to me?
Probably shouldn't.
So, would you admit that that's kind of a little bit silly because your value, whether or not you're protected in the womb, isn't really based off of your mother and father situation or what they think, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You said you had another stance? I don't want to, my goal here is not to, whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have another stance you wanted to say?
I do. I have a few.
Okay. We'll hear one more and then we'll move on to another guest, all right? So let's hear your another stance.
Okay, I'm going to do the bigger one. If you force someone to have a kid that they don't want, and just like big picture, both of them don't want it.
Okay.
And so you force them to have the kid, and in my opinion, it could go one of three ways. She'll keep it, and they'll actually be parents.
Okay.
They'll keep it, and they won't properly be parents, and there's a chance they'll end up in the system. Or they'll give it up for adoption, and they could get adopted, or they can go in the system, and the system is already very overflooded. And then there's good people in it, and then there's bad people in it. And I know there's a bunch of good, but majority of the cases that you hear of anyone in the system isn't really good ones.
Okay, so let me ask you specifically about that avenue you'd go down. Do you believe that those children in the system, quote unquote, do you believe that they are not worth protecting?
I don't believe that.
Do you believe that they have value, that they're worth protecting?
I do, yes.
Okay. And so why exactly are they worth protecting if they're in the awful system?
Because they're kids and they're humans and they should be protected, but a lot of them aren't.
Okay. Sure, but you've made the principle, which I actually agree with. They're kids, they're humans, they're worth protecting.
Yes.
I'm cool with that. So what's the problem with the kid in the womb then? Right? We're talking about the same kid here. Let's make sure that that's understood. When you are conceived, you are a unique individual human organism who you didn't have some sort of transformation. You were once a fetus. You were once an embryo. You were once a human zygote, right? So the kid, when we talk about them at one stage in development outside the womb, that's the same kid inside the womb. So what's the problem here? If you hold the principle that human beings, children are worth protecting, why then, even in the case with the difficult adoption situation, why are we not protecting that same kid inside the womb?
This may sound a little bit weird.
Sure.
But to me, if someone doesn't want a kid, so they abort it, in a way, to me, that is a little bit, I wouldn't say protecting their life, but You're not.
Annie, how about this? And I'm sorry to cut you off. How about you just think about it, right? Maybe we can talk again. I'll advertise a Discord server again. You're welcome to join. You don't have to, but it would be great. But maybe we could talk about it again some other time, okay? Because I feel like it might be beneficial for our conversation as two human beings for you to just kind of to think about this more fully. So you don't say something you don't mean, but you're also very confident and knowledgeable in your position, okay?
Yeah. I also thought you had more people ahead of me, so I thought I'd had more time.
No worries. I get it. And there's quite a few people in here. I get it. No worries. All right. So we'll talk some other time. I promise. All right?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Jules, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am good. What do you have to say?
I'm just wondering, kind of like, you want to ban abortion.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happens when people want an abortion? Where do they go?
They don't get it.
Sorry?
They don't get it.
So
Kind of the
back in
problem
the-
here. They want to do something they
Okay.
shouldn't do.
All right, sorry, but we go back a few hundred years, back to Victorian times.
Okay.
So they go underground.
Okay.
So they go, do you understand that?
Yeah, they're doing something they
London
shouldn't
person.
do,
You're
right?
American, I'm
I
London.
I know a bit of European history. I mean, in the West, infanticide. Thankfully, us Americans, even though we're quite crazy and quite liberal in some ways, we never did infanticide. But in the West, they did. In other countries in the West, and in Europe, they did. In the Middle Ages, Christianity played a big role in actually curbing that. But in the same way, hold on, let me just finish
No,
this point.
they did.
In the same way, you could say, well, we're not going to ban infanticide because people are still going to do it. Well, okay, yeah, I get people are still going to do it, but it's still wrong to do, and we're going to try to stop people from doing it.
Okay, so somebody can't get a legal abortion, like I was saying. So they go underground, they go to somebody, baby dies, mum dies. Is
Yeah, they
that
shouldn't
the
be
right
doing
way
it.
to go?
They're
So
offing their
you have-
kids.
You have medical, for a reason.
Yeah, they're doing something that is evil to do. So yeah, there's
It's not
consequences
evil
to
do,
when you
it's a
do things that
choice,
aren't good.
it's a choice. You have a choice because it's a woman's body. You're a man.
I am a man. Yes.
You're not going to get pregnant. You don't
not.
have to make that choice, do you? Do you?
Right. I don't have to
No,
make that
seriously,
choice
no, just
because
answer the question.
I'm
You
not a
don't have to
man,
make that
and I
choice,
also don't have
do
to
you?
make that choice because I find it so. I've cultivated virtues in my life that actually those basic instincts to do something like that probably wouldn't even exist. So
Right.
I would never even consider
But
something
you
like
have
that.
to answer the question because you're a man. You don't have to come up against that situation, do you?
You don't have to come up again. Yeah, I guess
Because you're a man.
the
you can't
situation
get
could come
pregnant,
up if I was in a
and you're not gonna
relationship,
get
but that's not really
pregnant.
what we're arguing here. We're arguing whether or not you should be able to do this. Just
But
saying
that's
that
what
it is a
I'm saying.
choice that
That's the
exists doesn't
point.
actually
That's the
prove
point,
anything.
isn't it? That's the point, isn't it? Because it's a
Why?
woman's
Let me ask you
choice.
this question: Why
It's her
should you have
body.
a choice?
It's her
Why
body.
should
Because
you have a
it's her
choice?
body.
It's not just her body though. There are two
It
bodies
is her
involved.
body. Whose
No, there are
body
two
is
bodies
it? It's
involved.
not your body, is it?
It's a woman's body, a mother,
Precisely.
and her child.
No. It's not a child. It's not a child. It's not a kid. You keep saying this. It's a kid. It's a child. It's not a child.
What is it? What
Until
exactly
it's
is it?
born. No, it's not.
What is it?
It's a fetus.
What is it? It's a fetus.
Yes,
I mean,
it's
you
not
made
a
some comment about
child.
the
A child is
Americas.
someone running around
You
in a
know,
house.
I mean, you
It's
probably know a
somebody
bit of
loves
Latin.
them.
What country do you come from?
I just told you.
What
Do you not
was it?
remember?
Was it the UK?
Of course.
Okay, you're from the UK.
Do I not have an
Do you know
accent?
a little bit of Latin?
Sorry?
Do you know Latin at all?
No, we don't.
I guess
teach
Latin's
them.
kind of a lost language, even in Europe.
It's lost. It's
So
lost.
fetus means offspring. So we're talking about human offspring, which
Well,
translates
okay,
to our
you can-
vernacular
you
as
can go
human
back to
child.
Latin, but that's not what it means. Okay, you can try and change things
Well, what-
around or twist them
Okay.
to how you see. At the
Fine.
end of the day,
What does it mean
at the
then?
end
Tell
of
me
the
what it
day,
means.
A
What does it mean?
fetus is not born.
Fetus means not born?
No, it doesn't mean not born. A fetus is, you know, when you have a baby, it's a baby.
Okay.
Prior to that, it's a fetus.
Okay, so
Have
it's a
you ever
fetus.
have you ever been
Would you
pregnant?
say
Have you
it's a
ever been
human?
pregnant?
Would you say it's a human?
No.
It's not a human.
No.
Really? Is it alive?
It is alive, and I agree with that. But
Oh, it's alive, but it's not a
that's
human.
That's not
Okay.
the debate that you're talking about.
Is it growing?
So
It's
everything
alive,
is
it's not a
alive when
human.
it's
Is it growing?
Yes, everything's alive when it's growing, but that's not the debate.
Okay, so
your
it's wait,
debate
hold on.
is
This is
ban
hold on.
abortion.
We can
Hold on a
talk.
minute. Your
This
debate
is
ban
actually a part of the
abortion.
debate because we're
Your
talking
debate is
about.
ban abortion.
Okay,
And
hold
my
on.
answer to that is don't ban abortion.
I get it. But that's
Okay,
you
because otherwise
we
it'll go
can't just
underground.
exchange very high level talking points and never
No,
get
because
anywhere,
you
right?
want
We
to
have to actually talk
change the
about issues.
subject, and I've seen you change the subject in
I'm not
every
trying to
person you
change the
talk
subject
to.
at all. Actually,
But
I'm
you're
trying
a
to talk about the subject
man.
that this
You're a man.
most
You're a
importantly.
man, and it's
Okay.
up to a woman what she does with her body.
I get it. We've
And
heard
it's
you.
not your
Everyone here has heard
choice.
you.
It's
Trust
not
me.
your
People
choice.
don't want to
If
hear
I
me
say
just
to
talk to you
you,
about.
hold on a minute. If I say to you, okay, I don't think you should have this part of your body, and it should be removed for this reason. Would you do it? I don't care.
Are you
This is
saying that the
hypothetical.
fetus is a
hypothetical.
part?
No, this is
You're saying
hypothetical.
I'm interrupting, but I
No,
can't even answer.
This
Are
is
you saying
hypothetical.
Are you saying that the fetus is a part of your body?
Yes, and what I'm saying to you, if somebody said to you, you need to have this part of your body removed for no reason whatsoever, because it's against your choice, would you?
Okay, so the fetus is not a part of your body. The fetus is a unique individual human organism. Do you understand that?
No, it's a part of my body.
How is it a part of your body? How is it a part of your body?
Because it's in my body.
So just because something's in your body, it is your body?
Sorry?
The fetus is not a part of your body. The fetus is a separate, unique, individual human organism. I have pictures of fetuses that I can show you and show you that it's not your body.
And I have a right to do with my body
You're
what I
saying
want
a lot
to
of
do.
things that are false that are almost kind of making it seem like you have a point, but you don't have a point because first of all, it is a human, and you said it wasn't a human.
No, it's not a human.
It is a human. What kind of DNA does it have?
You're just using words to project your ignorance.
I'm just asking simple
in the fact
biological
that you want to
questions.
project your own opinion on women's bodies.
Okay, Jules,
We have a right.
I'm going to say this in the
to
most
our
respectful way
bodies.
I can.
You can
That
beat me,
is
I don't
that
care.
is completely absurd. I'm talking to you about
It's
the
not
very
absurd.
basic
It's
biological
not
facts
absurd.
of the case
It's not
at
absurd.
hand.
So
I guarantee you pro-choicers
you
are
want
shaking their
to-
head right now
so you want
that
to
have
make
heard these conversations before.
rubbish. You want to push your opinion on people's bodies and make them do what you want them to do. That's basically what
Can I correct that statement to actually make it a little bit better? I want to give my opinion as to what people should and shouldn't do that I believe reflects what is true about the world. And I want to do that because that's really good for them. That's really good for us. That's why I'm speaking, and that's why I'm giving my opinion on this issue and on a plethora of other issues, because it's actually really good to do.
I totally disagree, and I'm just going to give you one opinion, and then I'm going to go because in the UK,
Okay.
I should be in bed by now. But
Okay.
my 100%, my opinion is it's my body. I can do what I like with it, right? There are many, many reasons that people have an abortion, and as a woman, I'm aware of that. As a man, you are not. And I don't think that you should be judging or discussing this with, everybody on TikTok just to get views.
Okay.
And I think that's
Well,
what
thank you
do.
so much,
And I
Jules.
think
It's
that's
not
what you
going to
do. And I
stop
think
me
that
from being
everybody on
politically
this
active, but
platform does.
I do
You need
appreciate
to
you
give
coming
your
up, Jules.
opinion.
I do appreciate. It is late in the UK. You should probably get to bed. Anyway. Crazy. She can have her. Okay, MC. That's kind of a funny comment. I don't know if you said something else before that, but that's pretty funny. Okay, so we'll move on to somebody else. Guys, if you're not in the Discord server, please join. It's a great way to support me, great way to get some resources, great way to be a part of our good community over there, and it really is good. Betty, it is perfectly fine to care about children who are losing their lives.
Yes,
The children,
that is
the group of
perfectly
children
fine
you
that
talked
you care
about,
that. I
the
understand.
children, the group
So
of
do you
children
want
you
to go
talked
on
about
birth
while
control or
suffering
get a
are not losing their
vasectomy
lives.
to prevent it? Do you want to talk about how we can control
Why
birth control
would
from
I
a
get a
men's
vasectomy?
standpoint?
Why would
So
I
if
get a
a man
vasectomy?
can get 20 people pregnant in a year and a woman can only get pregnant once in a year, where do you think all of the abortion need is coming from? Do you think it's from a man who's got 3 different women pregnant within a year?
Betty,
Okay,
do you
so
know anything
do you
about
think
me?
that
Do you
birth
have you
control-
Betty? Let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard me speak on these streams before?
I have never seen you before.
Okay. Well, I'll just tell you then how I view the world. I don't think that men should be getting 20 women pregnant a year. I think that one man should join with one woman, and they should
Right.
have a love so strong that they actually create somebody
That's
new.
very true, and that doesn't happen though. So do you think that there should be
Okay, so
birth control
but
for
it,
men? How about
okay,
there's some laws
I'm not
on men?
advocating.
Should
I'm
they
not
all get
advocating for men to go
vasectomies?
sleep around. I think that's not
Should
good
we-
for man. I don't think it's good for women. I
Okay,
don't think it's
but
good
we
for
don't have
society.
any laws against men to prevent pregnancy. There's only laws involving women to prevent pregnancy. So
Well,
okay,
we
can talk
actually
about the
used
medical
to hold on.
standpoint.
So that's actually slightly incorrect. We used to, for example, we used to not allow something like no fault divorce, and I would argue that that actually curves this idea that you can sleep around with a bunch of people because you're actually stuck in a marriage that you just want to leave so that you can be a scumbag. So we have had laws and expectations among men to act better. We've seen, and here I really show my conservative roots. We've seen, because of feminism and other social movements, this just kind of like degradation of what our culture is, and now we cultivate things like sleeping around and the sexual revolution. I don't agree with any of this.
And I understand. We don't
so
want to promote
I don't know
that.
what.
And we're on the
At the end of the
same
day, I don't know
page with
really
that.
what
I
you want me
understand.
to do. I'm against all of this.
There's
so,
people in fear there's children that are going to be in poverty. There's going to be children in dangerous places if they go through with the pregnancy. There's people who are at
Okay.
hospitals. So I want to give you one example. I was pregnant, and at 22 weeks, I was told by the NICU that my son likely had cerebral palsy. And I was at high risk and could, lose my life if I moved forward with the pregnancy. They told me that cerebral palsy could be like where they die young, and some people choose to not move forward with the pregnancy. Some people do. I'd be risking my life. People get in those situations and you don't understand them until you're in them.
okay,
People
can
need
I respond to that?
and I understand that you're going to say you support it from a medical standpoint if it risks their life. But there's
I do.
other women who are completely broke with no money. Absolutely. It was a complete accident. They're now 12 weeks pregnant with a growth on them. It is not a human being.
Okay.
It is a fetus. She
It
did know
is.
what
It
she
is
was
a human.
speaking
It is a
about.
human. It is a human.
You
I
need
do
to
know what I'm
think
speaking about, Betty.
realistically, like,
You're
what's the
being quite
strain
rude
on
to
the
me,
resources?
and
Why
I
do you
am
want
letting you speak.
conservatives complain about strains on resources, but then promote ban of abortion? Like, you want more strain
Yeah.
on resources, more children, more
Yeah,
single
I
parents
actually
on,
I take the
on
stance that children are
EBT?
actually
You
a
want
good
more
thing.
single
So,
parents on food stamps, like food
Betty,
stamps?
we've heard what you have to say. Now you have to be quiet and listen to what I have to say. Okay? So, here's the deal. I don't think because a child is going to have cerebral palsy that they're not worth protecting. If that were the case, then it can be totally reasonable under whoever puts forth this worldview to go around and to off all of these kids who have these disorders. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's just. I don't think that's good. We're still going to give them protections, even if they have something wrong with them. Now, on to your case about some need for abortion. I give the medical exception. But let's be very clear that the medical exception should only be given if your life, if you are going to lose your life. There's a very high chance you're going to lose your life in a case of what I would say self-defense. And even
So-
in these cases, hold on, I let you go on. Even in these cases that are less than 0.5% of abortions, they're not really abortions, because most of these things you can treat in a way that doesn't actually mean an abortion. But whatever, that's less than 0.5%. We can figure that out. Now, instead of just insulting me, Betty, what I think would be more useful is if
How
you
did
could
I
give me,
insult you?
if you could give me some sort
How
of
did I
principle.
insult you? Don't accuse me of insulting you without telling me how I insulted you, please.
If you could give me some sort of principle or argument as to why we should be allowing women to abort their children, what is it?
Did I not give you a reason already?
Right, and I addressed those reasons. I'm looking for a reason that can apply to the 99.5% of cases. Every other case.
Okay, that is a single parent, let's say for an example, that
Okay.
is completely doesn't have their rent, can't pay their medical cares, can't already take care of their current children, and now found out that they're pregnant. What would you like them to go into a dangerous situation to where all of them become homeless, all of them become, in danger Or do you want them to have access to that at 12 weeks before it becomes a baby and a human and born and all these issues? We have, like I said, a lot of children in foster care that need help.
Why
you know.
exactly are we offing the kid?
Why are we offing the kid? It could be a couple that said, oh, I want to go to law school. I wasn't ready yet. You're only 20 years old. My parents will disown me. There's people
Okay.
that you care about that do it,
Betty,
that
slow
won't
down.
admit it to
Slow
your
down.
face.
If you
There's,
are you are
everybody in your
serious,
party
Betty,
has had
slow
one
down.
with their
If you're
mistress.
serious about talking to me about this issue, we got to go one thing at a time. All right. Although I'm not as intelligent as it may
I'm not
appear.
as serious as you. Apparently, you have more seriousness about this issue for some reason.
Okay, well, I
when it
am being
doesn't apply
serious.
to you at all.
Okay. So if you want to, let me just make sure I get the principle down. If you want to go to law school and your child is impeding that vision, you have the right to off your kid. That's what we're going with? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Go ahead, repeat yourself. Did you just say between a
If
choice
you want
of
to go to law school and your child is impeding that vision, you have the right to off your kid. That is what we are saying. Is that what you believe?
Is that the law right now? You answer that. Is that the law?
I don't care. I'm appealing to something greater than the law. I'd call
Can
it the natural
someone have
law,
an
but
abortion right
let's
now if they
for
want to go to
simple
law
case.
school? Yes
for,
or
for-
no?
for-
Answer that question.
For our understanding, I'm appealing to what's true. So when I speak to you,
What is
from
true?
now,
Yes, you
from
can
now
have an
until
abortion
till
if
the
you
end of our
want to go to law
conversation,
school
Betty,
instead.
please,
Yes,
Betty,
that is true.
Betty, so you can off your kid because you want to go to law school. That's acceptable to you.
That's legal. Is it acceptable
Okay,
to
can
me?
you? Why can you? Can you do it outside the womb? Can you do it with a 1-year-old? Can you commit infanticide? If it is okay to do it inside the womb because of your desire to go to law school, why can you not off a 1-year-old sitting in front of you that's your kid because of your desire to go to law school? Why?
I think you know why. One is her responsibility to grow. You're not growing them. You are not boarding them. You're not carrying them for 9 months. It's not your responsibility to do that. You would not sacrifice your entire career, your body, your health, your future, your everything in order to carry
Okay.
them.
So hold on. There's
So
an
after the
assumption
1
here. There's a
year-
couple things going on here that are really important. You mentioned the child growing. We got to get down to exactly why that matters, because I think that there's some parallels between that growing outside the womb and that growing inside the womb. I think principally it's the same thing. Number two, you're talking about this strain of taking care of a child inside the womb versus the strain of taking care of a child outside the womb.
They're both a
Well,
strain. Some people
Yeah, I would
don't
agree.
have the
I talked to
capacity.
I've had a blessing of speaking with mothers who have been through
It's a
difficult
very
pregnancies. who
large
have-
blessing.
Betty,
It's a very large blessing.
Can I just please let me finish, please? Who have been through difficult pregnancies. Even some of these mothers who have been through difficult pregnancies will say that raising their kids, taking care of their kids outside the womb, is even more difficult. It takes up a lot of time. It takes up a lot of your resources. I would even argue, Betty, if I may, that having a little one outside the womb is even more difficult to pursue your dreams in law school, right? If you let's say you don't have a desire for law school, but your kid turns 2 and all of a sudden you're like, man, I want to make more money because maybe I want to have more kids or whatever. So hold on, Betty, please listen to the question.
You
So
have no point.
So you desire now to go to law school. Well, your law school journey is going to be incredibly difficult having a 2-year-old at home. Why can't you just off that kid? If you can off it inside the womb, why can't you off it outside the womb?
Why can't
What's
you?
really
I
important
wonder.
there?
I wonder why can't you? I wonder why somebody would need to while they're
That's what
inside
I'm
the womb
asking.
before
Why
they're
can't you off your
born,
kid outside the womb? To
before
me,
they're
it's the same thing as
breathing
inside
on
the
their
womb.
own, before they're considered a human being. I wonder why you would.
It's
make
not
that
true, Betty.
decision
That's not.
prior.
You're just lying.
That
It's
is
not.
true.
It
It's
is not true. You are
scientifically
human.
true,
You are a human. No, scientifically, no either. You are a human from the point you are conceived. From the point you are conceived, you are a unique, individual human organism. You self-direct your own growth. You have all the DNA, half the DNA from the father, half the DNA from the mother. You are of the habit to develop and to become the fully fledged rational being.
Do you
So
have
what
an
you are
opinion
saying
on,
is
on
false.
birth control for men at all? What
Will you
my
acknowledge,
suggestion?
because I've let you pivot and I've
Do you
tried to
have
entertain you in
an
all these different
opinion on
ways.
that, or
Will
do you
you
wanna
acknowledge with me,
discuss that
Betty?
at all?
Betty,
'Cause
will you
I find it
acknowledge?
interesting to get a male
Will-
perspective. I've
Betty,
never had it.
You are
Would you like
being
to
quite
discuss
rude.
that?
Betty, will you acknowledge that you were wrong and that human life does begin at conception. Scientifically.
I believe that human life begins when a child is born. So we believe different
I
things.
can't agree with that
So-
because it's not true.
Okay, do you want to
Is the
bring
child,
something?
is the human inside the womb, is it alive? Is it alive?
I realize that you want to talk about the growth inside being alive, a fetus.
Okay, buddy, I have to move
don't-
on because we're not going to get anywhere here talking to you about basic biology. But what I would encourage Betty to do, and for the 20% of people who are going to somehow agree with what she's saying and not actually engage in any sort of interesting argument, look it up. Type in Google right now, when does human life begin? It's not that hard. You're going to find plenty of evidence out there that shows you human life begins at conception. And of course, humans don't come from some other thing. We don't transform from a different species. If you are of the human species, you are human, right? So we're just at different stages of our development. It's all perfectly logical. It's all perfectly fine. We'll do one more person tonight, and then that will be it. The Discord server, please, if you don't mind. We'll be in the voice chat after. I did see Ev requested to join. She probably wanted to talk to the last person. Ev, I would have brought you up, but I guess you probably just wanted to talk to that individual. Let's talk to one more person. Who's it going to be? Who's going to be? Mike, I've already talked to you, brother. I've already talked to Mike. Let's talk to Sam. Sam? Last person, though. Last person, please join the Discord server. Link is in the bio. All you do is hit the top left, go to the TikTok page, hit the link tree. It's right there. Sam, how are you?
Great, how are you?
I am good. Sam, what do you have to say?
So I've been in a couple of these lives now today.
Yeah.
And I partially agree with what you're saying. Partially disagree. But I partially disagree. I still think abortion should not be banned. It should not be illegal.
Okay.
To a certain point, I do believe. So I heard some women saying that even when you're 9 months pregnant, it should still be legal. I don't agree with that.
Why?
Because to a certain point, I do believe it is wrong to abort at a certain age in the pregnancy.
Why?
Okay, so
Why is it wrong?
sorry. It at some point it does become a human being inside you. But that besides the fact that there's a lot of reasons for it to be legal. Up to a certain point, I don't know if it would be like
Sam, respectfully, I get it. There's a lot of reasons that exist. You have some kind of interesting view of human beings. You have a cutoff. Why do you have a cutoff? What's so wrong about doing an abortion at some point?
moral, I guess.
Okay, morals, sure.
but-
So what is telling you that it's wrong? Give me something here that I can understand.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at some point they do feel whether it may be emotions or pain. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, they feel pain at some point. So your
but-
cutoff is pain?
Or emotions or both.
I don't know much about the emotion stuff. I think that's you're making some assumptions about what they can experience, which I think is an interesting conversation, maybe for some other time. But let's go off of this idea of pain, because that's a little more well known.
Okay.
What about pain makes it wrong to off this child?
That's a very good question. I guess the way I'm seeing it is if the baby can feel pain, then it is at that point another person who should be also in consideration as well as the mother, though.
Okay, so what if you were outside the womb, you were a human, and we were able to euthanize you to take away your life, and you feel no pain? Would it make it okay to take away your life?
Um, for no reason?
Whatever reason you want to give. I mean,
I mean,
is
if
there
you're
ever a
just
reason
gonna be
that's
on
okay?
life support your whole life, then
Let's
yeah.
say this. We have a woman who's been struggling with this abortion topic. She's been thinking about aborting her kid. She has the baby. The baby's now 5 days old. Can we take away that child's life off of the mother's command if we can do so in a way that the child will feel no pain?
Okay, so at what point is this?
This is 5 days after birth. The mother doesn't want the child anymore, and she makes the call to off
Oh.
the kid, no pain. Is that okay to do?
That's no.
Why is that wrong to do? The child will feel
don't-
no pain.
I mean, there's other things you could do. You could go the adoption route.
Let's
there's
just
far-
say for the hypothetical, adoption is not available. That's not an option.
So
You're
you
saying the
have to
mother,
have
you're still
this
gonna.
baby.
I'm assuming you're still gonna hold that the mother shouldn't off the kid. Why is it wrong to off the kid?
Yeah, I can't get on board with murdering something that's already been born.
Why is that bad? Why is it bad to off
at
the
that
kid that's
point-
already been born?
It went full term, right? Like there's nothing wrong.
Yeah, and the baby's 5 days old. No adoption's available, but she
Yeah,
just doesn't want the kid
no,
anymore. She missed
I-
her window to abort it. Now she just wants to get rid of it, and we'll give it. We'll off the kid in a way that it feels no pain.
No, I can't get on board with that still.
And do you have something that is inclining you to say that, or it's just a prejudice?
It's just a person. It's
Okay. So I'm going to put forward, since it seems like you might not be able to fully substantiate why it's wrong to off a human, I'm going to put forth a reason that I think you might like. And that is that human at 5 days, even though it's quite useless, right? It just needs to be fed,
Yeah.
wiped, and taken care of. It can't really speak in a political way that we do. Speech is political. It can't exercise high faculties or rationality like me and you can, clearly.
yeah.
Just a baby. That human is worth protecting because of its future. That if you give that human what it needs and you don't intentionally off that human, it'll eventually become the rational, fully fledged out human being. And for
Yes.
that reason, it would be bad to off them because you're depriving that human of their future. You're taking
Yes.
away that good. So that's what I'm going to propose on how we kind of think about problems. Does that make sense to you?
I get what you're saying.
Okay, do you find any issues with that? Would you accept that at face value? Do you have any questions?
No, I totally agree with you at that. Like once yeah, we're on the same page
Right.
there.
We deprive them. Okay. So we're depriving them outside the womb because of this future, right? That they don't even really have right now, as we already discussed. They're quite useless, right? The baby right outside the womb. When we go into the womb, same baby, let's just go back in time. They still have that same future. What has changed? Well, the baby's less developed. The baby now is in the womb. Okay. But they still have that future. Using this framework we've established that you're okay with, at least at face value, aren't we still depriving that child of their future?
Yes.
Okay, and we established that depriving that child of their future is bad to do outside the womb.
Yes.
So why is it good to do inside the womb?
Again, I still have a cutoff. I don't think that abortion is okay unless of course obviously medically necessary in cases of like I'm not saying that word on the live. I still think there's lots of reasons that a woman should be allowed to have an abortion if they wish to do so.
Okay, I get
Even
that.
if
I get
they
that. I
don't-
just you were so. Let me just recap what happened. Okay, you didn't really have, in my view, a good substantiation as to why it's wrong to off human beings outside the womb. I gave you something to substantiate it with that you're welcome to use. It's not my ideas, but it's ideas that I've stolen and now you can steal from me. you're actually depriving them of this good, and that good is their future. Okay?
Yeah.
That's proper and that's good. In the same way, you're depriving the same child back in time. If you abort them, you're depriving them of the same good, of the same future, if you off them
Yes.
inside the womb. So I'm asking now,
But
how do you
once you
justify
go-
this offing, or is it just true that you shouldn't off the kid in the womb as well?
Once you go back in time and the kid is inside the womb, it's no longer just about the kid. It's about the mother to be as well.
Well, that's not entirely true, because outside the womb, it's about the mother as well. Right? You're born as a person, or as a human, you're born into a family. Right? That's your first politics. You don't get to pick your family, you don't get to pick your relatives. You're born into it.
That is very
And
true.
from the beginning, I think we would both agree that that mother, as long as she has that child, is obligated to care for that child. So for you to say, well, James, you know, inside the womb, there's going to be a more intimate biological relationship, I say, okay, fine. She's still obligated to care for the child. I mean, why shouldn't she be obligated to care for the child? Especially considering consider this, to not be obligated to care for the child, to not expect the mother to give herself to her child inside the womb, would deprive the child of their future life. Boom. To me, that makes it clear as day that we should expect not only the mother to care for the child outside the womb, but we should expect the mother to care for the child inside the womb as well.
If the woman wants that baby, yes.
Why?
Why take care of it?
Why does it matter if the woman wants the baby or not?
Because there are plenty of reasons for a woman to not want the baby.
Do any of those reasons climb this justification hill I'm asking you to do? Right? Do any of those reasons surmount to something that justifies depriving that child of that future good? Sam?
I just think that if you want to have a baby, then have a baby. But if you don't
I
want
agree.
to,
Yeah.
then don't. Like,
Okay. All right. Well, Sam, I'll let you think about it a bit more. Maybe we'll talk some other time. We're probably going to jump in the voice channel in a few minutes for you and for everybody else. But thank you so much for coming up. I do appreciate it. Okay.
all right.
Thank you. All right. So everybody, that's going to be it. Again, I'm going to plug the Discord channel, and here is really why. Not just building the community, and I do think that the community in itself is good, and we have good conversations, and there really are intelligent people. I'm not lying when I say that in that Discord. But also for this platform and these lives, you know, TikTok may not be here forever. Maybe they'll take down my TikTok. Who knows, right? This is a great way to separate ourselves from this app and from really any social media, because we'll have like our community, and we can always kind of find a way to meet up and to talk to people about the topics we care about, whether that be abortion or other political issues that are important. So this is gonna be it, guys. This is gonna be it. I'm done for tonight.